In just the latest gut punch to multilateralism, the United States announced its withdrawal from over 6 international organizations, most within UN structures, drawing this response from the Secretary-General's spokesperson.
General regrets the announcement by the White House regarding the United States' decision to withdraw from a number of United Nations entities. As we have consistently said and underscored, assess contributions to the United Nations regular budget and the peacekeeping budget as approved by the General Assembly are legal obligations under the United Nations Charter for every member state, including the United States. All United Nations entities will go on with the implementation of their mandates as given to us by member states. The United Nations has a responsibility to deliver for all those who depend on us, and we will continue to carry out our mandates with determination.
UN entities, the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, the Office of the Special Advisor on Africa, the Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary-General on Sexual Violence and Conflict, the UN Conference on Trade and Development, the Peacebuilding Commission, UN Women, and the UN Population Fund, among others.
From about 66 multilateral bodies, both UN and non-UN, further adds credence to the approach that Washington has taken to international cooperation, which is essentially my way or the highway. In comparison to past U.S. administrations, the Trump, which very much supported international cooperation, even if it didn't always agree with the vast majority of how member states wanted to move multilateral institutions, the U.S. has used its political and financial leverage in the multilateral system to very much attempt to shape the system and the direction of cooperation towards a very narrow set of priorities aligned with the current administration's national interest.
The expanded list of withdrawals adds to the announcements last year by the Trump administration withdrawing from the Paris Climate Change Accord, the World Health Organization, UNICEF, the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees, and UNESCO, among others.
There are a couple of directions that the rest of the multilateral system will have to address. One is that it can't exclusively wait for the U.S. and have to, stop everything to really try and adjust to the U.S.'s needs. Multilateral cooperation will still need to take place. A lot of these bodies, whether it is UN Women, the Family and Population Agency, they still have a lot of work to do, even with reduced capacities. For the U.S., it may present a short-term domestic victory in terms of messaging, in terms of aligning international cooperation with sort of the clear priorities of the Trump administration. But in the long run, the withdrawal of U.S. engagement from a lot of these bodies will have long-term effects that make the world less safe, less healthy, less prosperous.
The scam.
Asked about the financial consequences for the various entities, Forty explained that they were still trying to make sense of it all.
Both UN entities and non-UN multilateral bodies. And it kind of gets tricky when you go into the UN side of things, because some of the organizations or parts of the UN system that are on the list are statutory parts of the organization. For example, the U.S. is a member of the Peacebuilding Commission by virtue of being a permanent member of the Security Council. So it's not as if it can signal its exit entirely by just saying it's an executive order. But practically speaking, it may stop its funding to the Peacebuilding Fund, which is a small but flexible financial vehicle that the UN uses for prevention and post-conflict reconstruction.
As the US is seen to be walking away from entities that promote economic development and the Sustainable Development Goals, climate action, and gender equity, among others. Becomes how will the other major powers respond to Washington's decision and the possibility of China filling the gaps that the US has withdrawn from. But these decisions by the United States further align with the country's national security strategy revealed in November last year. That President Trump's foreign policy was motivated by America First, undercutting what it views as radical gender ideology and woke lunacy, while unleashing energy production to reclaim the country's independence. The United States last year also stated that it rejected and denounced the UN Agenda for Sustainable Development. Sherman Bryceby's SABC News, New York.